Hi, I'm Alison. Welcome to Dream Chasers Adventures in Happiness, where my band of superhero guests and I share with you tales of daring do, life-changing journeys towards living our best lives. If you're after an injection of inspiration and ideas to live the life that you want and deserve, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hi there, and welcome to the show where we serve up conversation, concepts, and belief that it is entirely possible to create what you crave. If there's something stopping you from pursuing happiness, whatever that looks like to you from a career or lifestyle point of view, the stories and insights covered here are designed to help. Now, today I'm joined by my brilliant former client, Suzi Lawrence. Suzi has spent over 17 years working with the same company, but she has broken free and has made meaningful changes to her career path based on her values and interests, but she's done it without the need for a full-blown career change. Now, I think this subject is actually really important because you don't always have to make monumental changes to significantly alter how you feel about your work and your lifestyle. Sometimes a considered step is all it takes. Now, Suzi is a fabulous example of this. So today, we're going to dig into a little of her career history. We're going to talk about how she became crystal clear about what was important to her and what those things were, so what was lacking from her role and environment before. And we're going to dive into the meaningful changes that Suzi has made and how, and the realizations that the new path she's on has brought her. So if you're looking for inspiration on smaller step changes that can genuinely make the greatest difference to your feel-good factor, stay with us. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Suzi.
Oh, thank you, Alison. I'm really pleased, a little bit nervous, but pleased to be here.
No need to be nervous, be your fabulous self. So can we start with a little bit of context? Because you spent 17 years working for the same company, which is where you'd spent the majority of your working career. So it was kind of mostly everything you knew. Could you talk a little bit about your career path there and then the job that you were doing most recently as Managing Director of Talent, just so we've got a bit of background?
Sure. So so I spent most of my working life there. I worked in a smaller agency, again in that very niche world of built environment comms, and I'd done the classic growing up through agency world. So account exec, joined the LCA as an account manager, and then I think I was the first account director there. I was then the joint first director there, and I really enjoyed the client side and did most of it. But the bit I really enjoyed on that client side was the relationship building, and that was always the feedback, that I was really great with the clients and building that relationship. I didn't so much enjoy the kind of the media selling and later on down the line I've realized why I didn't like that. But I worked on some really great projects and built really great client relationships, and that was the bit I enjoyed, and you could see that. And then I started becoming the person that people would talk to and go to, and I would and that kind of just naturally gravitated. It's like, well, there was no one looking after that kind of people function, so I started doing that, but first of all in a kind of client services director role, because I understood all about the working client side, and I took on all the resourcing for the agency, which I absolutely loved. It was like kind of like a moving feast of a puzzle, and having to put the right people or the right skills in the right place. But that kind of just, I guess, ignited even more the fact that I love just seeing people grow and develop and fight, and helping them do that by putting them on the right clients or moving them off clients if that wasn't the right thing, and seeing how those relationships and teams worked. And then so eventually then I kind of, I guess, transitioned full time to being that more internal role in the managing director of talent role. And then that was all the people strategy, that was redesigning whole performance review processes and everything that, and obviously the whole recruitment piece, and that kind of employee life cycle. So completely self-taught, and just happened to be because I love working with people, and that was the bit I enjoyed.
So you grew up in an agency background in comms,
primarily client side to begin with, and then adapting and moving into the area that you were most interested in, which was people. It was all around people. So can you share a little bit about how you were feeling in the latter years in your role and company? What was it that prompted a strong need for change?
Looking back, and I keep a diary. I've kept a diary for the last 10 years, and
Oh, I love it.
like a sentence a day is all it's supposed to be, and I've managed to squeeze 3 sentences usually into it. But definitely for the last probably 5 years I was there, I was trying to fit myself into something that just wasn't me. And I used to spend so much time telling other people, you don't need to change, we're not going to try to change you, just be yourself here. And I just realized more and more I wasn't able to be myself. And unfortunately I just ended up in a position where there was a tier of directors particularly that were just, yeah, I guess I was bullied. I will I'll be looking back and I can see that, but I was so unhappy and so like a shell of myself. But I kept, because I just wanted to make everybody else happy, and I just kept giving and giving, and what came back was kind of, oh, have some more money. And I was like, that wasn't what I needed from recognition. I'm someone, I just needed to be told well done or thank you. And then that made me think, oh, am I in the right place? I just wanted, I love helping people, and I love like seeing people thrive. And so I was getting that recognition and that thanks from those people that I was helping. But then from the people above who I was also helping by developing their account managers or getting them a new account exec, it was just, I don't know, my face didn't fit anymore, and it became really personal, and it was a really horrible time and place to be there. But I kept pushing on because I thought, well, I've got a part-time role, it's a really senior role, I'm not gonna be able to get that again or anywhere else.
So that whole feeling, so you're in an environment that basically sounds quite toxic, that you and I think a lot of people will identify with this, don't feel valued or appreciated for what you're doing and delivering, but you're feeling like you're stuck because you're telling yourself, well, it's a part-time role, I know you're working 4 days a week, I'm not going to be able to get this anywhere else. But particularly I guess because you'd also been there a long time, it's hard to imagine what the outside world looks like and what's available, and it's quite easy to tell yourself, well, it's an impossibility, like here I am and I'm just going to try and suck it up and hope it gets better. So thank you for being so honest about that, because I think so many people, I know a lot of people that I work with come from those kinds of environments, and it's an awful place to be. So we started working together because you knew that what you were doing, the environment you were in, was not working for you. But like a lot of people, you felt really stuck about what you actually wanted to do next or what you could do. So we helped you identify some things that were fundamental to your sense of well-being and happiness from a work and lifestyle point of view. Are you happy to just tell us a little bit about what those things were? Like, what did you discover?
And it couldn't have come at a better time, and you picked me up and you helped me find me again, and I will forever be grateful for that. And I look around at kind of friends and family who saw me in that period and then saw me afterwards and see me now, and it's like a different person. So obviously kind of we worked through that process of looking what I enjoyed and what I was good at and what I needed, and it just made me realize that what I valued was just so not aligned with the environment in which I was working at that point. And I didn't realize it. I didn't appreciate it. I kept kind of like trying to force myself into it. So a real priority was spent. I've got two boys. Just being able to spend time and when I was at my best self with them, that was a really fundamental part. Kind of flexibility, but I think but I wanted to carry on helping people. That was really, really important. I also I've always had a little bit of kind of wanting to be not an expert in something, but have kind of knowledge about a specific thing. So I wanted to be able to still be used and knowledgeable, but I wanted to be thanked and rewarded and feel useful. I guess I wanted something kind of, yeah, I wanted to be able to work or have some more contact with children. My own children were great, but there was just more just about kind of, yeah, what helping and working with yeah, younger people as well. But it was really in that having that purpose and that value in my work. That was, I got to that point, and I know, like, asking around, it's kind of a lot of people my age almost get to that point. But just definitely, I wanted to feel valued, and not just valued in a monetary term, in a kind of thank you, and you were making a difference for people.
Yeah, yeah, and I love how you talked about kind of just coming back to yourself and actually being you, and being able to be your best self for your kids and your family, you know, with the time that you actually are with them. Again, I think a lot of people will relate to that. So it was clear you wanted that, you needed flexibility in terms of working hours and working days. And something, like you said, that was purposeful and where you felt valued, and that potentially linked to working with children in the longer term. So how did you use this information and what you learned about yourself and your skills and your strengths to start looking for new roles?
Well, I guess having spent 17 plus years in an organization, and before that, you think I'd almost like kind of been approached by a recruiter. I'd never gone out looking for jobs, really. I'd always been the one, helping others get their jobs or recruiting people in, and I'd never done that. So it made me have to go and do it. And also, one of the things, you just go and talk to people as well, and that's what I did. But I kind of, and doing that, and then in looking at different roles that are out there, and particularly thinking about on that kind of children focus, it kind of drew me into the charitable third sector, and which is a brand new sector, the one that I'd not even considered looking at before. But then seeing that there were roles within there that actually, yeah, I could use lots of those skills and knowledge that I had. So I guess I started looking at that, and I went through the usual kind of reams of rejections or sending things into the ether, and that was a whole learning process as well. And that developed another skill set in terms of that resilience, and not trying to take things as personally, and again, always being the other side of recruitment. And so that was a learning side. But I also thought, actually, well, we've been somewhere 17 years. Why not just try something for a little bit? And so that kind of drew me onto the kind of, well, maybe look at a maternity contract. Test something out. You don't have to commit to it for a year. And that's exactly what I did. So just started looking for roles that were possibly shorter term, that would allow me to dip a toe in and try.
Your eyes and your mind to a totally new sector, and like you said, maternity contracts, like shorter term contracts where you could test the water and kind of feel your way through and see if it was something you liked, rather than feeling like you were committing to another great big long-term stretch of time in something. Did it kind of make you feel like, in looking, like, because I think a lot of people, because they worry that they're not going to be able to find what they're looking for, that it doesn't exist or that it's impossible, they don't start. They don't begin the process of research. And like you said, they're sort of testing it out and making applications. But as you were doing this and sort of seeing these roles that existed and recognizing that you did have the skills and the experience that were completely transferable and that would apply, did it help you kind of feel like you'd understand that actually the requirements you had really were possible? Like it was, yeah.
100%. There were roles, and I think particularly in that charitable sector, there were roles that were part-time, and there were roles that were they weren't looking for qualifications as such. I had to kind of come to that revelation of, yes, I'm going to have to take a significant salary cut, but we talked about that as part of that process. And actually, as I've gone through, I'm not motivated by money. Obviously, we need to have a certain amount to be able to pay for everything, but especially at the same time that my husband had decided to become a full-time student, so it was kind of, I did need to earn some money. But it was just, there were part-time and other and senior roles as well out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And again, like you said, like, so we went through that process of working out like what you actually need to earn and where there is wiggle room in order to allow you to expand kind of your search and think about what might actually make you happy.
Yeah.
So you started applying for people and operations maternity contracts in the charity sector that matched your criteria, and then and it was no surprise to me that you then got offered 2 jobs at the same time. So what did you end up doing?
So I ended up going on a maternity contract as a head of people and operations at a charity called 𝗧𝗛𝗜𝗦, a very small charity supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs, a sector in terms of entrepreneurship I knew nothing about, and obviously charitable sector first knew nothing about. It was 100% remote as well, so I was like, oh, this is new as well. But yeah, so I went for that option, and I'm really grateful I did, and I can kind of talk to you about that. But the other option, the other job I got given or offered, sorry, was it was a kind of wasn't a people, well, it was a people role. It was a relationship kind of role on a mentoring scheme called MCR Pathways, and it would have been looking after all of the different kind of managers within each of the schools that this mentoring scheme helps with and works with it. And I was just, I'd never come across a scheme like this. I'd never come across the kind of the concept of it, but basically that every child should not be limited by circumstances and should have the same opportunities. So I decided not to take that one purely because it was a full-time role. They did say they would reduce it to a kind of a 9-day fortnight for me, but I was like, I guess the flexibility more that came with 𝗧𝗛𝗏, I was like, I'm gonna try this. But I think MCR Pathways, the mentoring scheme, is so amazing. So I was like, as soon as I didn't take that, I was like, well, I'm going to become a mentor for them. So I now mentor a young person in care, which basically means just turning up for them every week. I'm going to go this morning and do that. And it's just trying to be a consistent adult in a young person's life who maybe doesn't have that. And it is probably one of the most rewarding hours of my week. And we do it. We mess around on the gym equipment outside, or we go and play Uno to her rules, and it's just the most amazing. So I would recommend that to anybody who has an hour spare a week, just to turn up and be an adult in a young person's life. So yeah.
Job offers, and you stuck to the criteria that that we'd worked through, that you knew was really important, and the flexibility was absolutely vital. But in taking that option, that gave you the flexibility to then volunteer, to mentor, and clearly you love it. You can tell from the energy in your voice as you're talking about it, and so it's like a double whammy. That's amazing. So you did your maternity contract at 𝗧𝗛𝗏𝗏. Where did you go after that?
Yeah, so I did a maternity contract at 𝗧𝗛𝗏𝗏. Unfortunately, at the end of that, I ended up having to make a decent chunk of their team redundant because of lack of funding and funding challenges. As part of that, kind of almost was offered a role to stay with 𝗧𝗛𝗏𝗏, but I couldn't take that on because I just made half of their team redundant, it felt like, and I was like, that just didn't sit well with me, and so I was like, no, I'm going to fulfill my contract. I learned a huge amount. I'd never done a redundancy process, so that was kind of like, I felt like I'd added another skill set, as horrible as a process that is, but I tried to do that in as kind of a way as I could. But then at that point I found another maternity contract, this time in a much bigger organization. So at LCA we've been about 70 people, 𝗧𝗛𝗏𝗏 was about 30 people, and whereas Frontline, where I am at the moment, is 140, and is the kind of social work equivalent of Teach First, and its mission is to prevent children from harm, working with children and families, and in training social workers to be just the best they can be, and it's an amazing role, an amazing organization. I took it because the chief exec she is just such an inspiring person, and I just thought, wow, I want to work. I haven't worked for a long time for somebody who I just feel wow by, and she was, and I've learned again so much whilst being there, even this kind of last six months or so.
You talked about that. I love the fact that it links to, you know, your longer term kind of wish to work more directly with children as well. So I know that while you were there, you weren't there very long before there was an opportunity to apply for another job within the organisation.
Yeah, so pretty much day two, I got told that somebody, the COO was going to be leaving, and then there was a kind of reconfiguration and looking like that. There was a director of culture and operations role came up, and the chief exec and a couple of other members of the team said, you know, really hinted that I should apply for that, and I was like, yes, I should, and I could. So I did apply. I got shortlisted down to, from 140 applications that they got down to 8, but I didn't get it. And I went through that. Yeah, I was really disappointed. I wasn't surprised when I think back about the interview. I wasn't strategic enough, but actually that process also taught me that I don't want to be at the absolute top again. I've been where the buck stops with you, and I've done that managing director role, but actually I don't want to be there, and it's not because I'm not kind of ambitious and I want to be the best I can, but I've really enjoyed that head of role and having someone to report into. You can still manage a team at a head of role. You can still have a real impact, and you know, and have that autonomy, but just not being right at that very kind of C-suite level. Not that we have that in charity, but yeah, that kind of director level. That was a revelation and a learning as well.
Actually, yeah. I mean, to recognize and take that out of that process and kind of go, actually, and now I understand that I know the level at which I am most happy and comfortable operating at, and to not see it as like a failure or a kind of a bad thing, but actually like, no, it's really positive. This is who I am. This is what works for me, and I'm gonna roll with that. Love it.
Yeah.
So this is a maternity cover, and you know, when this, like, what are you thinking about doing next beyond this?
So I mean, I guess having done 2 maternity contracts, I guess I want I guess a little bit of stability, and because I've learned during job hunting I don't enjoy looking for jobs.
I think most people would agree with you with that.
It is, so in that respect I'm looking for that stability, and it just happened that a colleague I used to work with in my first ever role reached out. She's in an agency and said, we're looking for a head of talent. Would you be interested? So I went, and I've met partners and met the chief exec, and I've been offered that role. So that would be a move back into agency, but a much more considered and strategic role, and strategic move, sorry, because one of the big things that's always kind of hung over me is that I kind of self-taught, and as I realized in talking to people yesterday at the CIPD Festival of Work, a lot of people are self-taught, but for me it would help to have a qualification, I think, in the people sphere, and so kind of part of my taking this role in agency is that I will do my CIPD level 7, and have that, and then there's and use that then, so I as a kind of stepping stone onto something else as well. So I think a kind of a very conscious move. It's a part-time role, it's a senior role. Obviously it's a corporate private sector salary again, so that with all the benefits of that. But in my conversations with the partners and the chief exec there, I was like, wow, I do know a lot, and I'm not using that kind of PR agency knowledge and that understanding. I've missed doing that. And I guess the other thing I have missed, which has been maybe nice to start with, is the pace of agency. I love the pace of agency. I love that speed. And so obviously going to the third sector was a massive step change away from that, and so it will be nice to kind of get back into that. And equally, it's the office is right at the train station. I come into London, so a very easy commute.
Fantastic. Oh my God. So you basically, like you said, it's a really considered move for a number of reasons, but also so that you can get your CIPD level 7, and actually it's so that propels you on for whatever you might do beyond that. Fantastic. Oh my gosh. So, well, to finish up, like how do you feel now about your work and your life versus where you were at before you made this, this meaningful change?
Content is the word that comes to mind. Not content in a kind of lazy, like I am just so content and happy, and that radiates out into everything. I say my husband and I get on better than we have ever gone, and we've both gone from crazy environments in which we weren't happy, and both doing something that is just much more aligned with who we are. So I have time. I'm able to give my best self to my family, to my hobbies, to my friends. I feel I'm able to make an impact in more things. I make an impact at work and in the work that I do, but I mentor a young person. I'm a trustee on a multi-academy trust, but actually able to give that time to that, and I think it's just, I feel very calm and happy and grateful. I feel so grateful for this journey that I've been on, because at the time, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. I'm never going to be able to find anything, and I've just got to this place where I am content and happy.
You just see it shines through. It makes me so happy to see that you're in this place, and you've learnt these things about yourself, and that you hold you've held true to it all through the conscious decisions that you've made moving forward. It's amazing. Well, listen, it's been brilliant having you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing what I think is a really inspiring story. If anyone's interested in connecting with you, where can they get hold of you?
LinkedIn. What am I? Suzi Lawrence. At LinkedIn, SEZI. That's where I am in terms of I'm not quite sure where I'm going to be job wise and bits and pieces, but that's but as I say, it's not been massive steps, but I just knowing that you can make those little changes that make the world a difference, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without your steering and directing, Alison. So
that's very kind, but you did all the work. It's amazing. Well, that's fabulous. Thanks again for coming on. That's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. And I really hope that Suzi's story has helped prove that work and life happiness does not necessarily require a full-blown career change or life change. It really is possible to make side steps that utilize your skills and experience, but also honor the working and lifestyle requirements that are most important to you. So if you know anyone who would benefit from listening to this conversation and Suzi's experience, please do share this episode. And until next time, just know that I believe in you and your ability to create whatever change you really want. So go do your thing.
Thank you for listening today. I hope our time together has got you thinking about your own adventure in happiness. So please do get in touch. I'd love to hear more about your story. And why not join our Dream Chasers Unite community? There is nothing better than an adventure shared. Until next time, be brave and go create what you crave.